The Colts end up losing what's probably the most exciting game of the year so far this season. And we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that happened in this game. And my voice is messed up right now. I was going crazy during the game. I'm sorry for my voice. But again, we're getting right into this. We're going to be talking about the refs at the end of the game, where the Colts basically, they had the game won. We would have won the game. But then they give the illegal contact flag, right? And they show the replay, and I can see where you make a case for it actually being a flag. But at the end of the day, you go and look at that like it's so soft. Like, look at it in real time. He didn't affect Amari Cooper at all, right? When you show it in slow motion, yeah, there's contact. But show it in full speed. When you see it in full speed, he doesn't actually affect Amari Cooper enough to throw that flag right there. But even after that, the Browns end up getting the other penalty on the very next play. DJ Baker gets called for pass interference on a play that was uncatchable. Those uncatchable balls are supposed to not be a penalty. Like, it honestly, it didn't matter what DJ Baker did right there. There shouldn't have been a penalty, and especially for it to just be hand fighting. We see hand fighting like that all the time in the NFL between wide receivers and corners, and it doesn't get called. But it gets called on a play where it's uncatchable. That makes no sense to me. How does that hold up? And especially in a game where they had multiple calls where they threw a flag and then took the time to review those flags and to make sure they were right. They didn't let the next play happen. They took the time. One of them was upheld. One of them, they changed the call. They were taking the time in this game to make sure these calls were right. And then at the very end, they're just letting these calls stand. How does that happen? With everything that had gone on in this game, the point in the game where it was, both these teams making plays on and off, both just trading, both teams making plays, both offensively and defensively, in a game where the Colts at home make the play on defense to save the day, and the flag is getting called, right? Both these flags get called, and the Browns still from the 1 yard line. It takes them 4 tries, and they get over the plane of the end zone by that much. If that second penalty doesn't happen and they don't get to the 1 yard line there, right? They're stuck at the 2 yard line. They never get in the end zone. This is what I'm talking about. Those penalties changed the entire game. Okay. And there are going to be people that say, and this is where we get into the rest of this conversation, people are going to talk about how the Colts had opportunities, but they messed it up for themselves. Yeah. When you go and look at the numbers, right? You look at the turnovers, and you don't even have to count the fumble there at the end. If you take that one away, the Colts still have 2 fumbles lost and an interception. Right now, for the Colts defense had themselves 2 interceptions. Kenny Moore had an interception that, in my opinion, that should have been upheld. I understand that it touched the ground, but it looked to me like that should have been ruled a catch. Then DeForest Buckner, that one a little more understandable why they don't call that one an interception, but that was really close. So Colts defense almost comes away with 4 interceptions in this game. They end up with 2. At the end of the day, again, the fumble on the very last play for the Colts, like, I'm not even going to count that. That is what it is. So coming out of this one, we still have 3 turnovers by the offense. And at the end of the day, yeah, that plays into it, especially when you're talking about points off turnovers that the Browns were able to get in this game. You also talk about Myles Garrett having an impact on special teams where he gets the field goal block. Right? It was those small things that stacked up, especially just there in the second quarter. Really, the second quarter is the only time the Colts lost this game. The other 3 quarters, I wouldn't say the Colts dominated, but the Colts definitely had their way for the most part in the first quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. That second quarter was definitely a little rough. Myles Garrett, we talked about it coming into this game. You can't let Myles Garrett wreck this game. And in the second quarter, Myles Garrett had his way with the offense. Right. And we also talked about, I said, whichever defense is able to put up a touchdown in the game, that team is probably going to win. Now, again, the Colts probably should have won this game without those penalties at the end, but that touchdown by the Browns defense ends up coming up huge. The points that they're able to get after the field goal is blocked by Myles Garrett makes a difference in the end. All those things stack up to make a difference, right? When you look at the total team stats stacking up against each other, this Browns defense was giving up less than 250 yards per game coming into it. The Colts end up with 456 yards to Cleveland's 316. Colts end up with 288 passing yards, where the Browns had 166. The Colts even had more rushing yards, 168 to 150. Yards per play, 6.8 for the Colts, 4.4 for the Browns. We had more first downs. We were better on third down. We were really good on third down today. That was one of the keys to the game that we talked about. The Colts were better in that department, which is why we were in a position to win. Browns end up 4 of 16. We end up 7 of 15. We even had the ball for longer, 32 and a half minutes in this game to 27 and a half for the Browns. But again, the big numbers in this one, turnovers and penalties. Colts end up with 8 penalties for 67 yards. Browns end up with 4 penalties for 20 yards. Now, again, you could make an argument for sure for the first penalty. But at that moment in the game, in that situation, you can't throw that flag for something it's not even involved in the play. He barely, he didn't affect Amari Cooper that much. That's what pains me, is he just didn't affect Amari Cooper enough for them to really throw that flag, especially when Amari Cooper's not a part of the play. But the pass interference was 100% egregious. Should have never got thrown there. Hand fighting is not a penalty, especially that late in the game. It's just not. So at the end of the day, the Colts come out of this 3-4. Okay, they should be 4-3. They come out 3-4, but there's a lot of good things to take away from this game for the Colts. Okay, again, the turnovers are a problem. The Browns, really good defense though. Like, I read off those team stats, 456 total yards. That's more than 200 yards more than the Browns are letting other teams get. Okay, so 1 week, whatever happens in Jacksonville, it's at this point unexplainable. We're just a different team in Jacksonville. We came back to Indy and we just went crazy on the number 1 defense in the NFL. And a part of that was Jonathan Taylor looking like Jonathan Taylor again. Zach Moss doing what Zach Moss always does. Michael Pittman Jr. doing his thing. Josh Downs quickly becoming the best receiver on this team. You look at the stats here. Josh Downs ends up with 5 catches for 125 yards and a touchdown. Michael Pittman Jr., 2 catches, 83 yards and a touchdown. One of those, the touchdown, was a 75-yard catch and run, breaking a couple tackles and outrunning everybody. Alec Pierce ended up with 3 catches, 53 yards. And again, we're seeing Alec Pierce get the ball in the more short field. We're seeing him play in the slot a little bit. They're having him do different things, and he's getting the ball in his hands in different ways and having an impact on the game. Yeah, he only got 3 catches. All 3 of his catches mattered in this game, especially the downfield one. Right, it was the second time in this game where we got Myles Garrett to jump off sides, got the flag, but still got the deep ball to work. Alec Pierce doing his thing right now, not having massive impacts on the game. But again, what he's doing matters right now. And then outside of that, you look at the other running backs and what they did, because they're the only other people that were really involved in the past game. Jonathan Taylor finished this game with 18 carries, 75 yards, and a touchdown. He also added 3 catches for 45 yards. And then Zach Moss also had 18 carries for 57 yards, no touchdowns, and had 1 catch for 5 yards. So overall, the running backs came in, did their thing, both in the run game and the pass game, a couple of the best players on the offense, making things happen. And again, we outrushed the Browns. Browns, they run the ball. That's what they're known for. We outrushed the Browns even after giving up a 69-yard rushing touchdown less than a minute into the game, right? If you look at everything after that 1 minute mark in the first quarter, the Browns only ended up with 81 rushing yards. So the defense, again, whether it was in the pass game or the rush game, defense did their thing, man. They came out and dominated the Browns offense, whether it was Deshaun Watson or PJ Walker in there. It didn't matter. Colts defense did their thing all day long. They were put in a couple of bad spots once again, and there were points off turnovers. Sure, you would like them to only give up 3 instead of 7 in some of these situations where they're giving up touchdowns. But again, you can't ask for everything, right? They did great for so much. I know Browns end up with 39 points. It doesn't look great for the defense, but overall, I was very pleased with the way the defense played. And you look at the way Gardner played after having the worst game of his career last week. He comes out this week, ends up 15 of 23, 305 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also had 3 carries, 29 yards in the 2 rushing touchdowns. which were huge. Those two rushing touchdowns early were keeping us in the game. So Minshew, while he wasn't perfect and he had some turnovers once again in this game, he came in, did his thing, helped operate the offense. We come out, put up 38 points. So again, this is a tough game, man. Like my blood is still boiling right now. Like still upset about what happened at the end of that game. But there are a lot of good things to take away from this game. And I think going forward, I don't know, again, with Gardner Minshew, of course, like Super Bowl, it's not Super Bowl or bust with Gardner Minshew. But at this point, with what I saw today, I still think we're going to be a team that's competing for a playoff spot. I don't think we're done yet. Gardner Minshew showed what he could do. The defense did their thing today. We have playmakers on the offense. We can actually say that now. We have playmakers on the offense, and we'll see if anything happens with any moves as the trade deadline is looming. But I'm still excited about this team. I'm still excited to be able to watch them every week. We're really fun to watch week in, week out. Other than the Jacksonville game, we are really fun to watch. So I'm really looking forward to next week. Next week, it's another home game against the Saints. There's going to be plenty to talk about coming into that one. But I'd love to know your opinion on everything we talked about here. Let me know down in the comment section. Let's talk about it. I know everybody's feeling some kind of way. Try to keep the language on point. Don't go crazy in the comments. Be respectful to each other. All right, over the past, week or two, I've seen, a little bit of disrespect. We can talk trash, but be nice to each other in the comments. And of course, don't forget to hit that sub button. Again, we have a lot to talk about this week. So have those notifications on. Make sure you get notified when all these videos come out this upcoming week. I appreciate you stopping by after the game to come have a talk. It was a tough loss, but I think we'll be back on the winning side next couple weeks. So with that said, as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.